We have a lot of powerful tech choices that we're going to be looking at here that will be infecting probably the next month or so of this game. Smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. So we'll be starting off over here with Vidos, the Dragon of Extinction. This has been a very strong topic on this channel. We've talked a lot about Vidos and the interaction to slow down the opponent with their broken field spells. Remember, we're kind of in an era right now where you have the gimmick puppets that have the ability to FTK. You know, we're heading on into, Tempai with their full BS. And then, maybe even chomping up a field spell that a Divine Temple coming down might actually ruin your day. There's a lot to think about in regards to what Vidos can bring to your deck. All right, I'm not saying that this is going to be the absolute best tech choice, but it is one that you need to consider out here on the option trees and go, this actually gives something to the meta. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe as things are going right now, we might see a dial back in the expected projections with this, considering Fiendsmith everything. So kind of keep that in mind. Next up is Azarune here. The angel statue and the top hat hair interaction. Remember, the top hat hair has the ability to bring out any trap card that basically can generate itself on into one of those little nice effect monsters. And Azarune has a very unique effect on an 1800 fairy monster, because when it brings itself out, it has a very strong ability that says when your opponent would special summon a monster while this is in the monster zone, you can send it to the graveyard. You can send a continuous trap card in your monster zone to the graveyard to negate that summon. All right, and that's actually pretty good. Yes, it does have to be deployed before the attempted summon actually occurs, and 1800 might be something that might be pretty easy to handle via battle. We've seen out here that multiple power cards have the ability to kind of disrupt these things, but hey, your free link 2 now has a formal disruption. And then there's the Apophis, the swamp deity. Now this one has, well, a skill drain clause to it, because during the main phase, you can special summon it as a normal monster with Reptile Earth level 6, 2022. So you have bigger stats than Azarune actually has, which I think is fine. You got to kind of balance things out on that topic, but you can negate the effects of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous trap cards that you control. That's right. So if you've got a running talking floodgate or something out here, the swamp deity is going to give you an actual power scaling of negates, and that's kind of why I like this card. It gives you the ability to use it as additional negates to punish your opponent in quite some interesting ways. I think this and Azarune are going to be your two major look-ats out of this set, just considering, there's some good defensive options. We'll take those. Next up is the Powersink stone. Okay, well, we've actually seen an application on here a couple times. Actually, I would say at the beginning of last set, where Melodious was citing the Powersink stone because they can put the first counter on the Powersink stone, and then as soon as the opponent places the next counter on the Powersink stone, well, oops, there goes everything for the turn, basically. Everything on the field that's a face-up effect monster is just dunzo. Alright, like, that's actually pretty good to think about out here. And then during each of those end phases, those stones get cleared off of it, which puts you into a very good situation, because basically, the Melodious deck being able to constantly use this, actually anything that can maintain a counter swing through and maintain, at least putting the first marker on the, or first counter on this before the opponent can actually do anything, is going to win you a lot of games just alone. And then we have the Angel of Blue Tears. This is projected to be one of the most insane cards. So let you target a face-up monster on the field. Its controller's opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards in the hand times 200, and then negate that target's effects until the end of this turn. Okay, well, that's pretty good. If effect damage is inflicted, except during the damage step, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Set a normal trap card directly from your hand or deck. If set from the hand, it can be activated this turn. Well, all that little burn damage that you've got chugging on along out here, that these cards are basically being able to use? Well, not only is the Angel of Blue Tears able to set a free trap card for you, and if it's from the hand, you can activate it that turn. Don't even get me started on the fact that it's a free negate too. Like, I think a lot of people are going to be very, very shocked when Angel of Blue Tears shows up as a tech choice, and they're going to be like, what in the world is happening here? Yes, it's going to be very good. And then we have Mulcharmy. Mulcharmy, there's a few people that are hyped about this card. They're like, oh, this is going to be the new main deck card. You know, everything is going to depend on Mulcharmy. Yeah, sure. Every time your opponent normal specials from the hand, you get to draw some cards. Like, that is kind of cool, but let's call it what it is at this point in time. You might be able to get like what a +2 on Snake Eyes, maybe 3 cards, depending on how they actually open up. You know, the Diabellstar normal summon Snake Eyes, and then to top things off, maybe, you know, the Poplar coming down. So it's like the maximum value I feel like you're going to get on the card. It is good. It is going to do some fantastic things for the meta, but for the time being, there are a few Tenpai players who are like, I want to main deck it, but I think for the most part, we're going to be looking at this as a side deck candidate here, just for what we can do with it. All right, and even so, I don't think a lot of people are going to be dedicating the slots to it. Next up is Heavy Slump. So this is a funny interaction here. So if your opponent has 8 or more cards in their hand, they shuffle their entire hand into the deck and then draw 2 cards. So this is a counter to the whole Mulcharmy thing. You know, if you want to special or normal summon infinitely from your hand as a Flunderies player, for example, and you want all of this free, you know, your opponent Mulcharmies you have to not only have the Heavy Slump in your hand as a counter pick to that madness of advantage, your opponent also has to open up the Mulcharmy to counter you. So you kind of need the stars to align. I think more so that this is just a funny counter. I don't actually think there's going to be any sort of meta application to this whatsoever until we get the other Mulcharmy that is the one that's the special summon draw creature. Like, it's going to be very interesting to see what we can do with that. And then Lullaby of Obedience, cross out, cross out. You know, these cards that are designed for these mirror matches are going to be some pretty major players out here. Lullaby, especially going into these Fiendsmith matchups, you know, stealing your opponent's Fiendsmith might not be something that you want to do, but, you know, if you're playing against, you know, Yubel or something along that way, you know, taking those power cards away from your opponent might actually be pretty good. You might be taking some risk depending on the build for those interactions, but I think we're kind of heading back into that point, especially, once again, projected tier 0 formats. You know, it really just depends on how you need these cards to shape up for you to have the perfect counterplay to do that. And I think that's going to be a good thing. All right, counters are going to go a very long way. That's honestly the standard metagame right there. If you have the out, you have the out. If you don't, well, okay. Super Poly. So we have 2 new fusions for Fiend, which are kind of ridiculous in themselves. Like, they were like, hey, you know, Beatrice is going to be a future problem. Well, yes, it is. When you make 2 cards that basically try to alleviate these cards, just make the Fiend combos even more insane. Like, I'm genuinely surprised they made these, but they also do. One of them acts as a new super poly target, you know, hitting 2 Fiend monsters of the same attribute, and then, you know, you can drop your Fiendsmith from your deck. Seems pretty good to me, all things considered, but we'll have to wait and see. Super Poly does feel like an extremely good card. Just, well, I mean, on the premise of, oops, you made a nice field, you left me 2 Fiend monsters up there, or, you know, even using Super Poly as a form of disruption against your opponent's board that they're trying to set up. Don't underestimate that. That actually is pretty good. And then, we're just going to toss Dogwood up here. Dogwood has been that card that, you know, every time time is involved, every time that there's a sort of situation out here with the game, and just, wow, you know, it's game 3, better side in those Dogwoods. The card is literally the anti-existence to those time rules. As much as we joke about the time rules, we're like, these are horrible for the game. They are, by the way. I'm not, but Dogwood exists as that natural kind of counter to kind of counter that. So, whew, Yeah, what a metagame. Let me tell you what. So please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. As Rune and Angel Blue Tears, going to be a fun time. You guys have a good rest of your day, all right? Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.